There is an object in your home right now that was designed to make you feel powerful, or, depending on who's using it, to make you feel small. For most of human history, the object was not furniture. It was a weapon, a political statement, a declaration of dominance so clear, so universal, that every culture on earth understood it immediately. And we've been sitting on it, completely oblivious, ever since. The building you go to for Sunday services, or at least the one your grandparents went to, it's named after a chair. The word, cathedral, comes from the Latin cathedra, which means chair, specifically the bishop's chair, the most important religious building in a city named after a piece of furniture. That's not coincidence. That's not a quirk of etymology. That's a window into a world where the chair meant everything. I'm Aiden Thomas of Hidden History, and this is the story of how the world learned how to sit down. This is the history of the chair. When we look at chairs today, we see comfort, convenience, furniture. But for most of human history, the chair communicated one thing above everything else: who was in charge. Think about the language we still use: chairman, chairperson, the chair of a committee, taking a seat as a metaphor for gaining authority. We use these phrases every single day, completely disconnected from what they originally meant. They came from a world where the chair was the single most visible symbol of power in any room. And understanding that changes everything about how you see this object. The oldest chairs we've ever found come from ancient Egypt, and they were not furniture. They were instruments of power. The pharaoh sat on a throne. His nobles might sit on chairs with carved legs and woven seats. Everyone else, and I mean everyone, sat on the floor on reed mats or on low stools. And here's the thing: this wasn't an accident of design. It wasn't that the Egyptians hadn't invented the chair for everyone. The height was the point. When the pharaoh sat on his throne and you entered the room, the physical elevation, the fact that he was literally above you, was a message, a constant architectural reminder of hierarchy. You weren't sitting because you hadn't been given permission to sit. Archaeologists have found chairs from Tutankhamen's tomb. You've probably seen images of them: gilded wood, inlaid with ivory and ebony, lion's paw feet, cobras along the back. They are spectacular objects. They are also 3,300 years old. And the craftsmanship is so extraordinary that many museum curators who've handled them say they still feel somehow like you shouldn't be touching them. The chair commanded respect, even empty, even to someone standing in a museum in the 21st century. The Greeks gave the world philosophy, democracy, and the Olympics. They also gave the world one of the most beautiful chairs ever designed: the klizmos. 4 curved legs, a curved backrest, lightweight, elegant, designed for the human body in a way almost nothing had been done before. You've seen this chair thousands of times without knowing its name. It's in virtually every painting of ancient Greek life. It's been copied by furniture designers for 2,500 years. But it was still a symbol of status. Rome took the Greek model and made it explicitly political. If you were a Roman official and you had the right to a curule chair, it means you had imperium, the legal authority to command armies, dispense justice, and run the state. Your chair was literally your credentials. The chair didn't hold you, the chair authorized you. The word cathedral, it comes from cathedra, the Latin word for the bishop's throne. A cathedral isn't defined by its size. It isn't defined by its art, or its age, or its architecture. A cathedral is defined by the presence of a bishop's chair. The entire building is named after the furniture. St. Peter's Basilica, Notre Dame, Westminster Abbey, named after chairs. Now let that sink in for a second. In a medieval great hall, here was the seating arrangement. The lord of the manor sat on a chair. Everyone else, family members, knights, visiting nobles, servants, sat on benches or stood. Not because chairs were expensive to produce, not because wood was scarce, because chairs were reserved, deliberately, intentionally, architecturally reserved for the person in authority. If you were a knight in 13th century England, you might be a warrior. You might command soldiers. You might own land. And at the lord's table, you sat on a plank. The chair wasn't just furniture. The chair was the visual proof that this person had authority over everyone in this room. The word chairman comes directly from this tradition. The chairman was the person who had a chair. Everyone else had a bench. Now, think about your last in-person work meeting. The person sitting at the table, probably in a slightly nicer chair, was most likely running the agenda, or quietly just in charge. You just watched a 1,000-year-old power ritual play out in a conference room, and nobody in the room knew it, except probably implicitly. Now, if you've made it this far, we're about to get to the moment that changed everything. One man, one factory, one chair. And within 70 years, he had produced 50 million of them. But before we get there, if you're new, please take a moment to subscribe. We put out a new episode every week. Every episode, we find the thing hiding in plain sight, and we tell its story. Now, back to our story. In 1830, a German cabinet maker named Michael Thonet had a problem. He was making beautiful furniture, intricate, handcrafted, expensive furniture. And he kept thinking, why does a chair have to cost a week's wages to produce? He started experimenting with steam, specifically using steam to bend solid wood in curved shapes, without carving, without joinery, without expensive skilled labor. It took him 20 years to get it right. But in 1859, he introduced chair number 14. 6 pieces of steam-bent beechwood, 10 screws, 2 nuts, shipped in a flat pack, 36 chairs to a cubic meter of packing space, assembled in minutes, priced so cheaply that a Viennese cafe could furnish its entire floor for what a single handmade chair used to cost. By 1930, 70 years later, Tonet's factory had produced 50 million chair number 14s. 50 million. And for the first time in 5,000 years of human history, a chair was just a chair. Not a throne, not a status symbol, not a political credential. Something you simply sat on. The hierarchy didn't disappear overnight, but Thonet cracked the door open. Now, here's a part of chair history that almost never gets told. In 19th century America and Europe, doctors began prescribing the rocking chair to women, not suggesting it, prescribing it. The medical reasoning, if you can call it that, was that the gentle, rhythmic rocking was soothing to the nervous temperament that women were believed to possess. A woman who is anxious or upset or expressing strong opinions or simply inconvenient might be directed to the rocking chair to calm down. The rocking chair was marketed almost exclusively to women, advertised as a health product, a therapeutic device. What they were actually doing was designing a chair that kept women stationary, rhythmically occupied, and out of the conversation. The chair, which had for 5,000 years been a symbol of power, was being used here as its opposite, as a way to quietly remove someone from authority. The same object, completely inverted, and nobody questioned it. In the 1920s, a German design school called Bauhaus tried to solve the chair differently. Designer Marcel Breuer took a bicycle handlebar, tubular steel, bent it, welded it, and produced the Vasili chair. No carved wood, no upholstery in the traditional sense, just geometry. It looked like a chair you design if you'd never seen a chair before. Clean lines, industrial materials, radical. It was the first modern chair, and it was meant to be a rejection of hierarchy. Furniture for everyone made with industrial efficiency. But the hierarchy crept back in a different form. The office chair. In the 1970s and 80s, executive office chairs became their own status language. The bigger the chair, the higher the back, the more elaborate the tilt mechanism, the more important the person. Companies started spending thousands of dollars on executive chairs, specifically designed to communicate authority to anyone who walked into the room. 5,000 years later, different materials, different context, same message. But here's the deeper story about the chair. It's the most ordinary object in your life. You probably own 10 of them. You sit on one right now. You may have even screwed it together from what you bought on Amazon or IKEA. And you've been completely unaware that you're participating in a 5,000-year-old system of social signals. Every time you're the one sitting at the head of the table, you're speaking a language your ancestors invented. Every time you stand while others sit, consciously or not, you're enacting a hierarchy that goes back to the pharaohs. The chair didn't start as furniture. It started as a way of building power into the physical space around us. Thonet tried to democratize it. The Bauhaus tried to strip it of status. And then we just invented a new status language with it, because that's what humans do. The object changes. The impulse behind it does not. It's a story about power, about who gets to sit, who gets to speak, who gets to be comfortable, and who has to stand, and who may be put into a corner to rock away their ideas. It's a story about control dressed up as furniture. It wasn't comfort, it was control. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Hidden History. If you got a moment and you like what you heard, hit that subscribe button, like the video, and comment below on another episode you would like to see. Next week, we're uncovering the hidden history about something you use every day, usually twice. Next week, we're talking about the hidden history of the toothbrush. Now, take a look around. History is everywhere.